I didn't really realize that it takes a lot of work to know that you're better. You have to believe that you're better than that and put yourself into that situation, because it's easy to compromise. And so it wasn't until I was in an abusive relationship and I was like, I called the police and I was sitting there and like, I was just in a bad condition, and the cop just looked at me and was like, you don't have to be in this, you're better than that. And at that moment, it was just like the whole world just stopped. And I thought to myself, like, I remember saying this to someone, and now a cop is telling me that because I was a victim of domestic abuse. And I have really realized that in this past few years, I sold myself short. And I was just I'm just thinking I'm cool, and I'm like, oh, I'm a good person, but the whole time I was being disobedient. And it wasn't until, like what Dove was saying, when you hit rock bottom to where you're willing to listen, and sometimes you don't want to have to keep, I'm not gonna say that. You can't really avoid the salting process. And so when I first joined the Remnant, it was like immediately when I realized the Most High was testing me, because I had an issue with just being friendly and being too trusting of others. And so,
take your time.
And so I had a thing about like just being too trusting of others. And so I didn't have value in that moment, and I wasn't empowered, because I kind of ran off the theory of like, if you're friends with them, you're friends with me. And that's how, if you guys were there last night, like roughly what kind of happened with the nation, because I had that mindset. And so it was funny that the Most High was testing me to see if I had overcame that, because in that situation, when I talked to my dad about not being empowered in that moment, I realized that I trusted others to look after me instead of me looking after myself. And a lot of the times we're taught that men are supposed to protect a woman, but you have to protect yourself in order for a man to protect you. Because if you're constantly running into fire, a man who's wise is not going to keep chasing after you, because y'all both will get turned. And a lot of the times you will send them out there chasing nothing, because you at that time you're acting like nothing. Like you don't want to stop yourself and bring it back. And so when I came to my dad about the situation, he basically told me, like, do you know where you went wrong? And to be brutally honest, it was a situation of rape. But at the same time, because I'm at a bar, I'm trusting people, I'm gonna think we're friends, you're gonna look after me. And that was not the case. And that was a humbling moment for me to realize, oh, you don't really care, and I shouldn't trust you just because we're a part of the same thing. And so the funny part about that is when I came to the Remnant, the first conference, I was interacting with people, and I had people like, oh, I love your brothers, and I care about them so much, and I love your family, your dad is cool, and this and that. And it's like, okay, well, I really respect my family. So you're going to show me how much you value me based off how you treat me, even though you're close to my family. And so when I came here, like I said, I wasn't looking for anyone. I wasn't trying to, I just minded my business. And so I had a specific person come and try to say that he was interested and he wanted to court me. I just was like, okay, well, that's fine. And so because I already knew, like, my filtering process is what I call it, I know, like, okay, I'm nice, but I'm not friendly. So I'm going to speak to you, I'm going to approach you, but at the same time, you don't get a free pass because you say that you're Remnant. But if you really are and you're processing information, we're all going to reflect the same. So you shouldn't even have to get filtered out if you're in the Remnant, because at this point, we should all be on the same page to where everybody's accountable, everybody's being held to value, everything of that nature. Ooh, am I being long? I'm sorry. I guess I'll go through the story, but like in this case, I was pursued, and I was just like, okay, like at the time I dated people that my dad was not approving of, and I was like, well, maybe because he's Remnant, my dad is going to be like, okay, yeah, he's excited. But even though I was excited to interact with that person, it was more so like, okay, but you're saying that you're Remnant, but who are you as a person? Because you can hide behind, I attend classes, I show up, I do this, I do that, and it's like, that's fine. But when you're coming to me as a person, I know who I am, I know who Remnant me is, but I know who I was before that, and what I value and what I care about, that Dre didn't have to teach me to care about. It was instilled in me from my own upbringing. And so in that case, it was more like, you could just see how the loopholes were, like the person in particular was just more like, oh yeah, well, I'm here with the family, so they thought they would get an easier pass. And that's why I said it comes with timing, because newsflash, just because you show up as Remnant doesn't mean that a woman, you don't have to subject yourself to a man just because they're pursuing you and they say that they're Remnant. They have to show how they're Remnant. that's important, because had I just been like, oh, okay, I would have failed my test from the Most High of being too trusting of others, in a sense to where I was just, you're cool with them, you're cool with me. The whole time, I don't even interact with guys who are friends with my brothers, so it was more like okay, I think I'm going to get in because I'm saying these key words, and it's like, okay, well, behind closed doors, you don't have to deal with them, you have to deal with me. And it showed, like, not it showed, I'm sorry, y'all.
You're doing great.
This is my first time speaking.
Great.
And so, through that process, like, I still had love for the situation, but I just really understood why the Most High came at me so quick, because it was just making sure that I really didn't go down that road again. And I would have been disrespectful, in essence, to myself and him had I went down that road and just gave into, like, those urges and trying to, like, just get attention. And I was when I came to Atlanta, like I said, I was at rock bottom. And coincidentally, I had just moved into my apartment by myself, and I thought about it when I went home after the fact that it was weird that it was a blessing that I had went through everything I went through and literally felt alone at that point in time, like just trying to reconnect with my family and reconnect with myself, and like, to be put into that situation where I left the conference and went home, I was forced to be by myself because I live alone, and it forced me to process all of the information and realize how grateful I was, and like review all of the situations I had been through. And like over time, just when I was so broken, and I finally went to my dad because I didn't want to tell him what I was going through. I was disappointed in myself and I wasn't being honest with myself. And when he told me that one word of being empowered, if I knew, it would have taken me like at least 4 years roughly of worth of suffering versus trying to hide that from my parent, I would have went a lot sooner. But I had to go through it because I wouldn't have valued it had he just been like, had he told me at that time, or if I just felt like I was getting a lecture. And so to wrap it up, basically, like with me being close to my family, like with the remnant, like when I shared yesterday how Dre was saying that it would like when I was able to share my story, it's because we want to be close-knit. We are a family. You have to feel like you gotta be transparent, and you have to be honest with yourself. And with the inside, it forces you to be honest because nobody's better than the other person. And so even when I had my run-in with the remnant, the other remnant brother, I didn't have an issue with it. It was more so like, okay, you still have work to do. Like we're still working, and it wasn't like coming down like, how could you? We're all gonna be held to a higher standard, but at the same time,
Take your time, baby.
I just feel like I don't know what I was gonna say.
It was like you, at the same time, you